We're going to discuss the very subtle difference between poverty consciousness and desiring less. I will repeat the subtle difference between living from lack and in poverty consciousness on one side, and on the other side, simply being somebody that desires less. Less attention, less money, less material things, less credit, less pats on the back, less fill in the blank. There are, believe it or not, in this world where we're so conditioned that having more is better, that bigger is better, that being in every way, shape, and form, we're conditioned to believe that more is better. So if you can imagine that in a world like that, it actually might be a little threatening. In fact, I have the belief that it's very threatening to have the desire to have less and to be able to then do more with less. They're kind of the same. It's like a complement. What was that in geometry? When you had like a complementary, it was like a complementary to the geometry laws, right? I can't remember it, but it's the complement of desiring less is being able to do more with less. And I would argue this is a very threatening thing in our present day world. But I would also argue it's a concept and it's a difference that needs to be discussed and brought to the surface and given voice because it is subtle, subtle. And on top of that, we live in a world where it's surface level. You don't really know the difference unless you're going deeper, just like so much in what's going on in the world. We live in this fast-paced, surface-based world where you don't even have the time to go deeper with things. Yet that's how you know something. It's sort of like the whole tip of the iceberg phrase. Way more of what is going on is below the surface. You've got to go deeper in order to see what's really going on, to see who somebody is, to see what somebody is. And we don't have a world that even makes time for going deeper, let alone that values going deeper. And I've always said, I'm an in-person person and I am a deep person. I am not a small talk surface level person. I'm somebody that goes deeply. Now, I'm going to be a force to be reckoned with when I take this verbosity and I really start getting good with the succinctness to complement the verbosity, because having both and being able to play a speaking game with both is going to make me potent, and it's coming. But for right now, I need to give myself the permission to have these deeper talks, and the deeper talks mean I'm going to use more words. The videos are going to be longer. And right now, it's me hashing all this stuff out to try to find the most potent positions, the most potent topics, and how to begin to weave all the pieces of what I've been doing for the past almost 12 years together. But this one is big because poverty consciousness, as I shared yesterday, was a very, very real part of my story and belief pattern that I had to change if I was going to manifest the life of my dreams, if I was going to manifest what I feel is my destiny. In order to do that, I had to come for the greater truth of the abundance, and understanding the abundant nature of everything, as opposed to the poverty consciousness that had dominated my life. But what makes that also a little bit more convoluted is that I also happen to be somebody who simply desires less. I don't want a bunch of material things. I don't want to travel the world and have millions upon millions in the bank. For me, money is energy and money is meant to move. Now, I've been barely making ends meet since launching the company of me, and I am not at all ashamed to admit that. I'm not at all ashamed to admit that for many reasons, and there will be a time where I go a little bit more into the actual specific numbers, because that's going to be hugely important when I talk about more with Ripple 2020 about doing more with less and trying to provide a platform for others out there who can do substantially more out in the world with substantially less resources, less money, less opportunity, and what it's going to be when you do give some funds, some resources, and some opportunities to these people for whom, for whom desire less and can do more with less. These are some powerful diamonds in the rough, in my opinion. And I would humbly put myself in that category. Okay, so as I make way for myself and pave a path for myself to emerge with these projects, to put my money literally where my mouth is, I am also, by extension and with conscious intention and purpose, creating a path for others. Again, this is a big part of what the Ripple 2020.world project is. Not going off further on that tangent in this video. I want to try to keep this in just talking a little bit about desiring less. And because I see money as just energy, it's one expression of energy. Now, this realm has made it the be-all, end-all expression of energy. And I will not say that money buys happiness, but I will tell you that it is extremely challenging to thrive when you're barely making ends meet. I have that specific lived experience now to speak to of over a decade. Over a decade. And it's a miracle that I've done on as little as I've been earning, but the brilliant opportunity that provided me, and I do not think that was an accident, was the massive amount of discernment, and by extension then the conscious choice that I had to make with the expenditure of every single dollar for the past 12 years. And I promise you, I am not exaggerating. Every dollar spent for the past 12 years has been done so with full conscious awareness. That is how budgeted as I've been. That's how disciplined I've been. That's how discerning I've been. And let me tell you, there's a big, powerful, there are lessons that I have learned because of not having money. Listen, I don't know that you can learn those lessons if you have a boatload of money. I don't know that you can really learn what really matters. And those, it was like I was on an accelerated path of learning discernment, which is going to be reserved for its own video, a very powerful concept. I had no idea about that word. I had no idea what discernment was. I definitely wasn't living with any discernment. And as all of this, all of my life choices, beginning with the six-figure leap of faith, were not accidental. It was me following something bigger than me, my higher soul. I was following that, and it was guiding me through an accelerated journey, an accelerated like curriculum of my own, like spiritual and life curriculum of learning these lessons that you can't not learn them when you have very little money and you've got to assess, okay, am I going to pay for health insurance as a self-employed person, or am I going to put food on the table? Is it, and really assessing, okay, do I need a fancy car, or am I getting a car that just gets me from point A to point B? And, every single decision of having to weigh what's really important and having it be dictated and determined by my goal and what I was trying to work to manifest here. And living with that sort of consciousness, paving my unique path, it's invaluable. It's invaluable to have that sort of opportunity. And I know there are many lessons to share beyond what I'm trying to do in these, just even in these 30 videos. There's a whole lot that journey has taught me, but I don't know how much of it can be extrapolated to others, because the biggest part that has to be shared is how unique it is when you pave your own way. And when you try to put yourself out there representing your whole self on your own and not through some sort of company, not with the aid of a system or a company doing it for you. When you make up what your to-do list and what your roles and responsibilities look like. And I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here. It's a little bit late, and I don't know that this is not going to be a particularly good video, but it's taken me quite a few attempts to get this. So perhaps I'll just end it here despite going off on a little bit of tangents, and I hope that I captured something. Doing more with less, and the difference between poverty consciousness and simply desiring less. As I start to make more and more money, there is, there's a little bit, I need to make more than I've been making to reach my sort of bare minimum of comfort. And I need to put a little bit more. I've always said I want at least a full year in savings, a full year of my expenses in savings. But beyond that, I don't believe in the concept of retirement. I just don't believe in holding on to money. I think it's supposed to move. And I'm going to get to try test these hypotheses out, because I'm really close to my dream life. I am not that far. And as I really lose the fearlessness to give myself permission to share my story and to remind myself that if anybody else is uncomfortable when they hear any part of what I'm sharing, that part's not my responsibility. If somebody's upset because I'm sharing part of my story that they recognize their own, they recognize that I perhaps might be referencing them in some sort of way that's not flattering to them, it's not my job to protect people anymore. If you've done something that hurt me and I, am not sharing it to protect you at the expense of my own well-being, I'm no longer doing that. And I'm not trying to share anything that's intending to hurt anybody out there, but I protected a lot of people, and a lot of sort of subtle. It was more just that no one was really there. No one was there. The day I signed my Division I basketball scholarship, I'm 4'11" and 3/4. I had zero plans to play to get a scholarship, and I got a full ride to Florida. Nobody was there. Nobody celebrated that. Not my coach, not my teammates, not my family. Nobody. Then in college, I had a coach that our nicknames were a phrase I can't even really comfortably say. And I have no trouble cursing, but I cannot tell you the phrase that this woman called us during my freshman year, how horrible she was. And I'll never forget the day that she grabbed me on my chest and she said, "God damn it, if you don't have confidence, just fucking fake it," and threw me to go check in. I didn't respond well to a woman that screamed at us and told us how shitty we were. And all of a sudden, the basketball player that I couldn't be down here. And then I gave up that basketball scholarship, which was incredibly hard. And I got the most prestigious academic scholarship at the University of South Florida, which at the time was the 9th largest university in the country. The most prestigious academic scholarship. At the luncheon, the president of the university was always there, and nobody came down. And all the other inductees over the years, their parents would come down. Nobody came down for me. Then the next thing that was kind of shocking was my divorce. I get divorced. I'm not even out of my ex-husband's house. And my dad comes down, and instead of being there for his kids, I had just gotten divorced. My youngest brother had just dropped out of college for the second time. Dad lets us know that he's leaving mom again. And I have to be the one to tell her. So there it is, going through a divorce. And even then, zero, nobody there supporting me at any point. Nobody in my life. The next thing after that was pretty much going after my dream. And never in my life I know I had bounced around. I was excited after idea. I was seeking for all of my 20s and I was struggling. But my family knew how smart I was. They knew how hard I worked. They knew how good a person I was. And they knew I was never somebody, ever, that was looking for a handout. And when I launched this vision, there was nothing. I had never been that certain of anything. I was distinctly different. And I remember writing after I had launched, after I had paid it forward, I was then beginning to face the debt. And I wrote an email and sent it to about 50 family members. I have 20 first cousins. My mom's one of 8, so I have 16. I had 14 aunts and uncles on her side, and I had, my dad's one of 4, and so I had 6 aunts and uncles on the other side. 20 cousins on one side, 9 on the other. More than one multimillionaire in that extended family, and an extended family that was quite close. My mom's best friends are her sisters, her 6 sisters, and out of the 50 people I wrote that email to, not a single one responded. Not even with a no. No response whatsoever from anybody in my family. And then the most recent one, launching my art. Now, listen, I know my art's nothing magical at all, right? So the art that wasn't even really intended. It just sort of happened because multiple people have come to the house and looked at the art and said it was good. So I threw it on an Etsy page. But the book, my little book, is good. It is good. And other than my mom and my dad, nobody in my family, and they are made aware, and even my mom and dad didn't buy any extra copies to give to anybody. My brothers didn't buy a copy. My aunts know I wrote a book. They didn't buy a copy. My cousins, a couple of them know they didn't buy a copy. Nobody. So this isn't a pity party. It's not about playing the victim. It's unbelievable how little support I've had. So how much I've done with as little as I've had. I don't need pats on the back because I've been on my own for the most part for most of this life. And I've had to become my own self-validator. That didn't come easily. I was looking for and waiting on my family, my parents, my brothers, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I was waiting on it for a long time. And finally, I just had to accept and not take it personally. That's really hard. It's really hard to have achieved that much and done that much. And still, nobody seems to be in my corner cheering me on or supporting me. And so I know how much I can do on my own. And right now, the kind of support that I'm looking for, it's so minimal. And it's not support for my everyday life. It's support for a vision on behalf of so much more than me. But you're either going to see that or you're not. And again, it's not about a victim. This isn't about wanting pity at all. Hell no, I don't want to be pitied. To be pitied is, oh, no, it's not about pity. It's just an understanding of, if you can imagine just the wounds that those sorts of things, what kind of wounds those were, and emotionally, what it's taken to be the one that says to myself, you are good enough. You are good enough. And you do have a right to dream. And you do have a right to share your stories. And you do have a right to believe that we can come together and be better and support one another. So that's what I'm doing. Accepting my story. You don't have to agree. You don't have to agree with what I stand for. Like, that's the true testament to a strong individual. Like, how does me living my story, unless you're living a day to day life with someone, man, why would you not support how somebody's telling their story? If somebody wants to believe that they're, you know, why would you not? If they're out there trying to be something, the story they're trying to tell for their life, if it's not exactly what they haven't yet done it. I hate the phrase fake it before you make it. Fake it to make it. But there's some truth to that. There is a period where you have to affirm and affirm and affirm and affirm something before you can make it real. Why would we not accept the stories one another are trying to tell? Again, if you're close to somebody, right, you might have to have boundaries. And having judgment of somebody is different than just having preferences, right? You may not agree with somebody. You may not prefer the things they value, but you can still support. I'm throwing a lot out there. Something's got to stick. Something's got to stick. I need to finish this with some sort of 5 minutes something, and I'm going to have to edit it in the morning. What can I finish it with? Proactive conscious life. I think I'm just going to have to leave it at that. Doing more with less. Poverty consciousness, different than simply desiring less. Could be threatening. Being able to do twice as much as someone else with half as much resources. I can see circumstances where that's threatening. Certainly, when you start talking about it at a higher level, like bigger projects, collaborating and supporting one another with the energy of attention. Same way that we feed the biggest of sports stars, Hollywood movies, TV. I don't know yet that we fully understand what our attention, how much that fuels. I'm going to end it.